say good evening to you all and welcome to our regularly scheduled business meeting of the Garner Town Council. Welcome and thank you all for complying with our request as it relates to the wearing of masks and also a seating distance. I guess in the seats you hardly have any choice since they're roped off, I suppose. But thank you for your cooperation in that regard. So this evening, as we begin, I'm going to ask the clerk if she will call the roll, please.
Mayor Marshburn.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Behringer.
Here.
Councilmember Dellinger.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Singleton.
Here.
And Councilmember Vance.
Here.
Thank you very much. As is always part of our procedure, we like to begin our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance and also with an invocation. And this evening I will call on Councilmember Dellinger if he will be able to lead us in those two items. Thank you, sir.
Stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Bow your heads if you so choose. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessing of this day and the opportunity to serve this wonderful community we all love so much. Please be with those who are battling COVID still to this day, who are taking care of those who are fighting this terrible disease. Please also, Heavenly Father, look over our Commander-in-Chief and the White House and all of our leaders that they may recover and be healthy. Thank you, Lord. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Dellinger. Okay, also an important part of our agenda is a segment that we call petitions and comments. And just to give you a little information about that, this portion of the meeting is to receive comments from the public on items not included in the agenda. Citizens should sign up with the town clerk to speak prior to the start of the meeting if you can. The council is interested in hearing your concerns but may not take action or deliberate on subject matter brought up during the petitions and comments segment. Topics requiring further investigation will be referred to the appropriate town officials or staff and may be scheduled for a future agenda. Madam Clerk, I don't have any evidence of a sign up. Do you have anybody who signed up? Okay. So notwithstanding that, if you are here this evening and you wanted to use this time to make I'll say a quick petition or comment, I'll be happy to recognize you at this time and we'll let you do that. Anybody? Okay, seeing and hearing none, thank you very much. The next item of business, council, is the adoption of the agenda. You have it before you. Do I have a motion?
I wanted to add a couple of closed sessions to that, Mayor. One for personnel and one for property acquisition.
Okay. And I think I'll have the site when we're ready to go into those, or I'm sure the town attorney has that. Okay, thank you. So, council, with that one change, a closed session add-on at the conclusion of the regular agenda, do I hear a motion that we adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Motion made, and Mr. Matthews seconded that. So, any question, comments?
One, and it was brought to my attention that there is a little confusion in the community about the date of the public hearing. So just to keep it on the agenda, but council to be aware of that and maybe be open to continuing the hearing if it looks like we need to do that later in the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see Mr. Dellinger if that's an issue or concern and try to be sensitive to that. But hopefully we'll be able to move ahead with that this evening. So with that comment, council, are you ready to vote? All those in favor of adopting the agenda, would you please say aye?
Aye.
If there's any opposition, no, and there is none. So the agenda is officially adopted. Okay, under presentations, I would like to recognize a gentleman that's known to many of us, Mr. Harold Garner, who is the Executive Director of the Miss Garner Pageant. Association. Harold's been before this council on many occasions, and he has someone that he would like to present this evening. I understand maybe there is one of the persons who's not with us tonight. You can note that, if you will, Harold. But if you will, come forward and please make your presentation, if you will, sir. You can either come to the center aisle or, let's see, we don't have the podium over there tonight, do we? Okay,
Yeah, this one probably. be
okay,
good. Send it.
yes, all right. You ready, sir? Thanks for being here.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for allowing us to come before you tonight, along with Ms. Garner. I want to just, it's not a pandemic, it's a pain-demic. You know, just so glad to see all the faces that we haven't seen, for quite a while. I noticed there's a couple of new people here that probably don't know much about Ms. Garner organization, so I'll give you just a little bit of history for a minute or so. Ms. Garner organization is the largest, oldest program in the state of North Carolina. We've been here longer than any other local in the state, and we've also had the most Miss North Carolina of anybody in the state. In fact, last year we had our first outstanding teen as Miss North Carolina. So, but we've been around for quite a while. I've been around for 53 years. I've been involved with the program, Miss America. And so, but we basically have three things we do. One is that we provide scholarship for young ladies in the area. And two is that we promote the town of Garner, not only in Garner, but North Carolina and across the country. Also, we have provide the service to various different groups, organizations, and different things in the town. But anyway, I have my outstanding teen, Haley Wagner, can't be here. Well, I'd love to get her back to tell her story because she's was involved in a car wreck, and actually it was in Miss Garner's always the first Saturday in November, and in the latter part of November she was in an accident where a car hit them running 90 miles an hour in the rear, and her friend, a 15-year-old, was killed, and her grandmother was killed, and she's been in and out of the hospital for quite a bit. She has now developed tremendous migraine headaches, so that's one big problem she has. Also, she has a respiratory problem now that she didn't have before. She was a dancer, but she can't be a dancer anymore because of what takes place there. So she's actually a senior. She's multi-talented. But I do have Ms. Garner, Megan Heff here, and I'd like for her to come forward and make some comments, please. Megan?
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Megan Huff, and I first off wanted to let you know a little bit about me outside of my title as Miss Garner. I am a senior at Meredith College right down the road. I am majoring in fashion merchandising and double minoring in religion, ethical studies, and marketing. I was Miss Garner's Outstanding Teen in 2013, so I love this community, and I'm very blessed to be Miss Garner this year and to be able to serve you all. First, I wanted to be able to talk to you about my personal platform that I came up with whenever I was Miss Garner's Outstanding Teen that I've advocated for since then. I am now 21 years old, so it's been quite some time that I have been advocating for Beyond the Mirror and for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. For Children's Miracle Network hospitals, over the past several years, I have been blessed to raise over $50,000 for that organization and hope to continue to do that in the future with the town of Garner's help. Whenever I was younger, I thought that I was all alone. I was depressed and I did not know my worth. I thought I was the only person going through issues about self-image. Since the age of 4, I began dancing in the dance studio. This once was a therapeutic experience for me, but then it became a nightmare. As I aged, many of the girls in the studio and even mothers would make fun of me. One girl would trip me, call me names, and would always try to make me feel like less of a person. and it hurt even more knowing that adults were doing the same thing. I began to dislike myself. I would cry before I had to go to dance. I would make up excuses to skip class because I did not want to be seen in a leotard. I was broken and felt like I had no one to turn to. No young woman should have to go through this. As young women grow up and develop their self-esteem, their personal worth starts to develop. This is a tender time, and I want to help young people understand that we all have our special traits. Our body is the container for the special person that we are, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. Young women are overwhelmed with the demands of school, family, societal standards, and possibly a job while trying to figure out what they want their future to hold. They might not think they are good enough, or they may believe that they need to look a certain way just to fit into society. That's why Beyond the Mirror is so important. It's not the way that they see themselves in the mirror, but rather their mental state and their personality. This is what truly makes them who they are. Confidence begins the moment you decide to be yourself. Over 70% of girls ages 12 to 17 avoid normal daily activities like attending school because they are ashamed of their outward appearance. Many young women struggle with body image and eating disorders. This pressure that today's society puts on young women to look a specific way is traumatizing. Positive body image is clear, true perception of your shape, seeing the various parts of your body as they really are. A negative body image involves a distorted perception for one's shape. Negative body image or body dissatisfaction involves feeling of shame, anxiety, and self-consciousness. People who experience high levels of body dissatisfaction feel their bodies are flawed in comparison to others. These folks are more likely to suffer from feelings of depression, isolation, low self-esteem, and eating disorders. As with eating disorders, body image concerns can affect us all. All ages, genders, and cultures are equally at risk for body image issues. In our Western culture, girls often feel pressure to succumb to the societal acceptance and ideal. The body positive movement is making great strides to promote size diversity, body acceptance, and healthier body image for all ages, genders, races, and abilities. It is important that we continue to embrace body diversity while recognizing all bodies as good bodies. While we all may have our days when we feel awkward or uncomfortable in our bodies, it's key to developing positive body image is to recognize and respect our natural shape and to learn overpower the negative thoughts and feelings with positive, affirming, and accepting ones. My plan is to start a movement with Beyond the Mirror. I have been a wildlife and a young life leader for the past 4 years, and I have been in middle schools and high schools throughout the state, mentoring young women and young men. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that I would love to do in the town of Garner. I know that it's hard now with COVID, but I would love to have Zoom meetings for possibly right now starting off one a month, and then hopefully you'll be able to grow into the next semester to where I could go into schools and speak to these young children and go into the classrooms and teach them about my platform and help build their self-confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huff. Well, let's give her a round of applause. Then thank you for sharing your personal story. The average person probably wouldn't be comfortable in doing that, but thank you for doing that, and congratulations to you. As you probably know, this town has a pretty rich history with its Miss Garner representatives, and I'm sure you'll represent the town well. I was just thinking that I live one neighborhood over from the place of where a former Miss Garner, Miss North Carolina, lives, Dana Stevenson. She's pretty well known to a lot of us. But you follow in a long line of young ladies who represented our town, and we would expect the same from you and know that will happen. So congratulations to you, and good luck to you as you move ahead. And if there are any other council members that care to make a quick word, I'll be happy to let you do that if there is anybody.
Or any questions about me. I want y'all to get to
Or
know
any
me.
questions, yeah, okay.
I just have one comment. I just want to say I admire your perseverance, and I know many of us have daughters, and it's good to bring these issues to the fore and to have somebody speak to them very frankly about these things. So thank you for that. And also the talking place you have on this platform. You know, people think it's just pageants and these types of things, but there's so much advocacy that goes on. Arlie Honeycutt Kid is one of those examples, and there's a lot more that comes out of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, anyone else?
I had the opportunity to meet her outside as I was pulling in and got a photo op with her, Mr. Mayor. You never know about these things, but couldn't resist. But wish you a lot of luck and with the Garner pageants. It's a very strong tradition, as the mayor said, and if you'll listen to them, they won't steer you wrong, and that man there has been doing it a long time, so good luck, and we look forward to you being Miss North Carolina and come back talking to us again.
Thank you, and the 100th anniversary of Miss America.
Okay, yeah. Don't want to stop at this state level. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I also met Ms. Huff outside, and I had the opportunity to get a photo opportunity with her as well, Councilman Field. Appreciate the opportunity, and she waited patiently for me as I was getting ready to come in. And thank you so much for your testimony, your message, and wish you the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Well, by my calculation, that means the mayor and at least 3 other council members have not had the photo opportunity. So at any rate, maybe we can arrange for that at a later time. We won't take time to do that now. But Harold, thank you for your diligence in bringing these young ladies before us here for recognition, and we appreciate your many years of work with the organization. You've given a lot of time to it, I know. So again, congratulations to you, and we'll look to see you around town, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item of business is one that I take great pleasure in leading, and that is a proclamation in recognition of the Garner Police Athletic Activities League, commonly known as PAL, for its 10th anniversary. So in just a minute after I read this proclamation, I will ask the representative, it may be Mr. Keever or whoever's going to represent the department or whoever. Let's see, I see Rob Smith. Are you the president now, Rob? Yeah, okay. All right, well, let me read the proclamation here so folks will know what we're recognizing here. Whereas the Garner Police Athletic Activities League is a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating programs that develop positive relationships between youth and police. And whereas their vision is to improve the Garner community today and in the future, they do this by directly offering programs for youth, by partnering with other community organizations, and by creating opportunities where children and police have positive interactions and develop a mutual respect. And whereas with the recently adopted Vision 2020, Garner Police Athletic Activities League builds on its past success and has a strategic plans for the next 3 years that focuses on 4 goals: areas of impact, growth, board development, and budget and revenue. And whereas Garner Police Athletic Activities League was chartered in October 2010 and has been making a positive impact in the Garner community for a decade and is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Ken Marshman, on behalf of the Garner Town Council, encourage all residents, to join in this celebration and recognize the positive impact the Garner Police Athletic Activities League makes in the community. And this bears the seal of the town and is signed by me, the mayor, on the 5th day of October. So congratulations to you for the good work that you have done and will continue to do, and I'll be pleased to present this this proclamation to whoever wants to receive it. Okay? I'll just come around here. Okay, so the proclamation is just read.
Or maybe this photo here.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Truly appreciate the recognition and the support that the council has given us over this past decade. Garner PAL, as the proclamation says, looks to create opportunities for positive impact and positive interactions between the police and children in the community. So many times, that initial interaction sets the tone for a lifetime of relationships. Too many times, that first interaction with police may be a negative experience. Maybe something bad happened in the home. Maybe a parent wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing. Maybe they were going too fast down the road. And that is the first impression that children have of the police. That's not a positive experience. What we're trying to do, and what we are doing, is creating more opportunities where that first interaction can be positive for both the child and for the police officer. I think for those that saw the video that we have presented before this meeting and is available on our Facebook page, it tells those stories. Over the last decade, there's been a lot of positive stories taking place in Garner because of PAL. And it's not one person, it's not one organization, but it's a lot of organizations, a lot of people working together. And that's what really makes PAL so successful and so unique, is that it brings a lot of different resources to bear, all for one common good. A lot of people right now are talking about, I wish the relationships with police could be better. I want the relationships to be better. Well, PAL has been making the relationships better for the last 10 years. And with your continued support and the support of our Garner community, we hope to do it for the next 10 years and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and for all the other people affiliated with PAL, want to just raise your hand so we'll know who you are. Okay, there's several over here. Most of you serve on the board, is that right? Okay. Thank you for your work. I've admired that organization for many years. It's outstanding, and thank you for all the time you spend with that, okay? Both police and civilians as well. Thank you. Okay, with that, we will now move to the item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. There are several items on there. I believe there are 5 all total, but council, you have that before you. Are you ready to adopt the consent agenda? If so, I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Behringer. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Singleton seconds the motion. Any question, comment? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposition, vote no. And there is none. So it is so ordered. Thank you all. All right, the next item is item H, public hearings, and there are several of those. The first items on there, I believe, are annexation type public hearings, and then we have some quasi-judicial hearings that we'll explain in just a little bit. So, Mr. David Bamford, I'm going to open the first public hearing, Acts 2015. Will you present now, please, sir?
Good
Hearing's open.
evening, Mayor and members of council. We've got 3 annexations before you tonight. The first one is annexation case 20-15. This is for Clifford Glen Phase 2. And this is a vicinity map of the annexation area outlined in red. Bryan Road runs along the eastern side of the property. This is directly across the street from Bryan Road Elementary School. This site also backs up to Sutton Springs and is also directly north of Clifford Grove subdivision. Clifford Glen Phase 2 was formerly named Bryan Road subdivision. This was approved in 2017 for 41 single-family lots. And this development will connect to public water and sewer. The size of the property is around 18 acres. And this would be a contiguous annexation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council, have any questions for Mr. Bamford? Okay, hearing none. I don't believe there are any other witnesses, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Annex
20-15.
You got it.
Okay, the motion made,
Second.
second by Mr. Vance. Any further discussion by council? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as presented, please vote aye.
Aye.
And there is no opposition. If there is, yeah, okay, none, thank you. Let me see, I guess, Mr. Attorney, I need to open each one of these as a hearing, okay?
Separate hearing.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to open item number 2 on our agenda, ANX 2016, Clifford Glen Part 1, and Mr. Bamford, you're presenting on all these, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
This is a typo on the slides. This is Clifford Glen Phase 1. This is a vicinity map of the annexation boundary. And this has frontage on Clifford Road and New Bethel Church Road. This is directly next to Sutton Springs subdivision and directly across the street from Oak Park subdivision. This is a subdivision that was approved in 2017 under the former project name Tingen subdivision. And this was approved for 18 single-family lots, and this will connect to public water and sewer. And the size of the property is approximately 7.1 acres. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bamford. Questions by council? Hearing none, are there any other persons who wish to be heard? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for a motion by council. Excuse me, let me close the hearing, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt annexation ordinance 2020-4082.
Second.
Okay, motion properly made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please vote aye. Aye. If there's any opposition, vote no. And the motion carries. Okay, I will now open the public hearing on ANX 2017 and the Old Stage Road. I won't read the others. You can do that, Mr. Bamford. What would you present at this time, sir?
This annexation is for 2 lots on Old Stage Road, south of Eagle Ridge subdivision. The addresses are 8408 and 8412 Old Stage Road. And this vicinity map shows the annexation boundary outlined in red. This is on the west side of Old Stage Road and north of Whitecroft Drive. The size of the tracts is around 7.1 acres. Zoning is R40, and these lots are currently vacant. And the plan is to build 2 single-family homes on both of these lots and connect to town water on Old Stage Road. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bamford. Council, questions for Mr. Bamford? Okay, hearing none. Any other persons wish to give testimony in this case? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the annexation of 2017.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposition, no. And it is so ordered and carried. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Bamford. See, that covers your items, is that right? All of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks, sir. Okay, the next item is SUP SB 2002 JS Commerce Park, excuse me. Ms. Jones, are you the one? Yeah, you're presenting on this. I need to give a little preliminary information since this is a quasi-judicial hearing. There's some rules governing these hearings required by law that we are required to follow. As a result of this hearing, it means it's more formal than other public hearings. Under state law, the parties are entitled to a fair hearing. I will now inquire of the council whether any member has a fixed opinion prior to this hearing that is not subject to change, or if you've had any ex parte communications or any close familial, business, or other associational relationship with an affected person, or a financial interest in the outcome. If that is, any of those items are true for you, you should acknowledge it at this time. Any council members? Okay, hearing and seeing none. It's a fact-finding hearing, and appropriate sworn evidence must be presented as the basis for whatever decision the town council makes. Opinion testimony is not appropriate factual evidence unless the witness is a recognized expert on the subject. Therefore, opinion testimony concerning such things as impacts on land values, traffic safety, or noise levels should be avoided unless the witness is a recognized expert based on training and experience. You're permitted to ask questions of other speakers concerning their factual testimony. Council members are only allowed to receive factual information about the cases in the hearing and are not allowed to discuss the cases outside of this hearing. And for those of you who do speak, I realize the presenters may take them a little longer, but any others, we would ask you to be conscious of the time limits. We always try to make sure that comments remain within a realm of 3 to no more than 5 minutes. So at this point in time, I recognize our town staff for the presentation. Ms. Jones, are you ready? Okay.
Swear me.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, you're exactly right. Yes, please see the clerk and be sworn, and that would be true for any persons who wants to give testimony in this case. My apologies. Do you need this gentleman to come over, or can you swear him from there, or maybe you should get a little closer, sir, if you don't mind.
Just want to make sure I have
Yep.
everybody on the list. So you can stand over here if you want to, it's fine. Okay. Do you solemnly, sincerely, truly declare and affirm that the evidence you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Sir, could I get your name?
Greg Sandroider,
Okay.
S-A-N-D-R-U-T-E-R on the app.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to formally open the public hearing, and Ms. Jones will be presenting. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council and everyone in the audience. I'm here to present JS Commons Park. That was not on.
A malfunction with this one. Okay, so I have to rely on this one. Okay, thank you.
I'm presenting JS Commons Park Special Use Permit SUP SB 2002. The applicant is Hamilton Merritt Incorporated. The owner is Doggett Associates LLC. It's located at 0 Jones Sausage Road, or better identified as across the street from the newly Amazon distribution center. The planning commission meeting was held on the 21st, and we're hearing it tonight at the town council meeting. The site is 53.22 acres. Proposed use is a flex space. This site is zoned both service business and heavy industrial I-2. The setbacks for service business are 35 feet for the front, 25 feet for the rear, 10 for the side, and the corner is 25 feet. For heavy industrial, the front is 50 feet, the rear is either 0 or 50, the side is 0 to 25, and the corner is 35 feet. 2 neighborhood meetings were held virtually on July 23rd and 1 on September 9th. In accordance with the town council endorsed emergency interpretation of neighborhood meeting requirements. And here is a copy of the site. No open space was required for this site, as is a non-residential development. Required tree coverage for this site is 10%. They're planning on saving 10.68%. The perimeter buffers, the northern western perimeter buffer vary between 45 and 50 feet. There's a 25-foot type A existing buffer recorded with the Wake County Register of Deeds for the eastern portion of the project. street buffers. There's a 15-foot and 25-foot buffer along Jones Sausage Road and Calabar Street. The street trees are being provided every 40 feet. Calabar Street requires 62, and they're providing 62. Jones Sausage Road is requiring 67, and they're providing 67. The street lighting has been shown in conformance with the UDO, as well as meeting other staff recommendations in lighting LED fixtures. All fixtures have zero uplight, low glare, and warm white light, exhibiting color temperature no more than 4,000 K. The the inspections department, along with the fire department, has reviewed and preliminary approved this plan. Environment and floodplain. This site does contain environmentally sensitive areas. If development is proposed in or around the environmentally sensitive areas, it will be evaluated during site plan review. Stormwater management. J.S. Commerce Center is a commercial development site that is not located within the watershed protection area. This site is subject to stormwater quality requirements for nitrogen, as well as quantity requirements for the 1, 10, and 25-year storm events. This development is proposing 3 stormwater retention ponds to treat the impervious surface for nitrogen and water quantity requirements to ensure stormwater requirements are met as a part of this development. A nitrogen offset payment will be required as a part of this development. The water and sewer infrastructure. Connection to the City of Raleigh public sanitary sewer and water system will occur through existing infrastructure. Roads and sidewalks. This project will include the realignment of Wilmington Road to curve east and become Calabar Street as it approaches Jones Sausage Road. A short portion of the existing Wilmington Road will remain to become a cul-de-sac to serving the lots 3 and 4 of this project. The remaining Wilmington Road right-of-way DOT will be abandoned. The realigned Wilmington Road Calabar Street will be built as to Town and Garner Major Collector Street standards, a 3-lane section within a 74-foot right-of-way. This will tie into the construction of Calabar Street by others near the Jones Sausage Road intersection. Street lighting will be installed along Wilmington Road and Calabar Street and the cul-de-sac. Roads and sidewalks continue. Improvements by this development on Jones Sausage Road will be coordinated with improvements being done by others. 4 driveways are proposed off Jones Sausage Road south of Calabar Street. Southbound right turn lanes will be installed at Calabar Street and at the southern 3 driveways. Northbound left turn lanes will be provided at the 2 southern driveways. Curb, gutter, and sidewalk will be installed where it already does not exist. The Garner 2018 Ford Transportation Plan calls for Jones Sausage Road to be a 4-lane divided section, a new 3-lane collector road to extend the existing Wilmington Road west to Creech, and a new 2-lane collector road that will extend the existing Calabar Street west to Cook Street. A greenway or side path are proposed along Jones Sausage Road. The roadway widening along Jones Sausage is being completed as a part of another development. Improvements by this development on Jones Sausage Road will be coordinated with improvements being completed by others. As a part of construction, an access driveway into the site, curb, gutter, and sidewalk will be installed where it already does not exist. The 2018 Garner Transportation Info continued. Existing Wilmington Road will be realigned to curve east and become a Calabar. Hold on, I went the wrong way, sorry. Excuse me. The site plan conformity with the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Comprehensive Master Plan. A review of the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resources Comprehensive Master Plan revealed no plan recommendations in this project area. Therefore, this project, as proposed, may be considered consistent with the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resource Comprehensive Master Plan. After sufficient review and plan revision, staff finds that this project as now proposed may be considered consistent with the regulations of the UDO, so long as the following project-specific conditions are met. Prior to the issuance of building permit, the engineering fees shall be paid to the town of Garner. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, minor subdivision plat shall be approved and recorded with the Wake County Register of Deeds. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, payment of public utility fees shall be paid to the City of Raleigh. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, a nitrogen offset payment is required. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the stormwater control measure maintenance plan and associated memorandum agreement shall be approved and recorded with the Wake County Register of Deeds. Construction drawing and review and approval by the engineering department and City of Raleigh is required for this development following the subdivision plan approval. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for any subsequent site plans, confirmation from the North Carolina DOT abandoning a portion of the Wilmington Road right-of-way shall be received by the town. And finally, an annexation petition for the entire subdivision is required to be submitted to the planning department prior to the recordation of the first subdivision plat. The Planning Commission reviewed this project at their September 21st meeting with a 6-1 vote. The Planning Commission confirmed staff's findings in Section 5. The SUP SB 2002 JS Carmen Center is in conformity with adopted town plans and policies. Are there any questions for staff?
Okay, you've heard Ms. Jones' presentation, and so I'm going to start to my left this evening, and if you have a question or comment, Mr. Matthews, I'll start with you, sir.
And this street will go away from that development, as I understood you correctly, the new, is it Wilmington?
Yes, sir.
Just cover that for me just one time if you would.
This, you see the red
Right,
dot?
mhm.
So this little portion will go over here to serve these back lots over here, but the main traffic will come out right here.
Okay. So,
Okay, Ms. Singleton?
They're gonna be allowed to get direct access off of Jones Sausage Road on all the lots by adding a turn lane for each individual lot, correct?
Yes. one right here
Lots
for-
one, 2, and 3.
It looks, yes.
Or
For
1 and
lots
2.
1, 2. Bless you. 3. And then in Calabar Street, that would, I guess, be the 4th one. But not really their driveway.
Okay, will there be any expansion of the current driveway? I know they just completed some work there related to the Amazon project, and it has the permanent signals up. Will there be any other additional work at that intersection that we know of?
That I am not aware of, maybe.
If
Chris
it's like a
Johnson.
dedicated right turn lane, I didn't know. I'm just curious.
We will need to be looking at that more closely with DOT, which we would handle after the later construction drawing review. But there is possible more improvements needed. But we would base that on more information in discussions with DOT.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Follow up with Chris. Some of this information will be discussed during a site plan review that's already in review now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, satisfied, Ms. Singleton. Okay, I'll go to Mayor Pro Tem Berger.
Ms. Jones, did I understand correctly that Wilmington Road will connect to Creech Road?
I
Or
think
the-
some future right of expansion and connectivity will, but I'm not sure if this will occur during this subdivision plan. But
Okay.
Chris can speak more to that too as well.
Okay.
Yes.
It will or won't?
Yes.
It will,
Yes.
at this
But
time?
future.
Future, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dellinger, Councilmember Dellinger.
I have a zoning question. I have a question about what are we approving? This isn't a zoning change, and this isn't the final site plan.
No, it's no zoning changes.
No zoning change on this.
This
so-
is just pretty much the subdivision plan, creating the lots it's 3 lots now, and they're creating 6 lots out of these 3 lots. So it's just creating the
Subdividing
subdivision.
into parcels?
Yes.
And so what impact does the 40 overlay have on this project?
Right now, in the subdivision phase, not too much of an impact, but when the site plan comes in, it's like I just told Mr. Singleton's already in, that will affect the building height and the building setbacks and some other things that are in the 40 overlay. That will affect the site plan more so than the subdivision plan.
Which are going to take precedence in that planning process?
I didn't understand your question.
Which will take precedence, the overlay or the underlying zoning?
The overlay is in addition to the underlying zoning.
And so the stricter of the two take precedence, or if there are gaps?
Well, both of them have to be met. The requirements for both the underline and the overlay will have to be met.
And if they're conflicting, then
I believe the overlay will be the more strict. The more strict.
I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, because in looking at the overlay district in the UDO, it's kind of explicit in some of its objectives under purpose and intent. It says the town council finds that Garner is rich in natural scenic beauty along I-40 within its planning jurisdiction. The town council finds that the general welfare will be served by orderly development within the I-40 overlay district in a fashion which would preserve natural scenic beauty and aesthetic character, promote design, quality, and enhance trade, tourism, capital investment, and general welfare along the thoroughfare. And so I'm wondering how that conflicts with this 90% tree removal.
So the overlay adds requirements to the base district. There should never be an instance where they conflict from the actual written standards that are applied. The purpose of that corridor, though, was to actually just protect the view of I-40. And so in some cases, though, it does apply to properties outside of that, but it does have a 50-foot protection, no disturbance directly adjacent to the interstate itself. And then there are some other things, the way it addresses parking for development away from the corridor of I-40 itself.
And so how, what I also read is that because it's in the overlay, you could actually reduce the parking requirements to enhance tree preservation. Is that true?
Yes, parking is always flexible. There's actually things in there that if the applicant comes to us with a parking study that is more up to date than the standards that are in the UDO now, we can entertain those and consider those. And it also, the way the parking is treated in the overlay is slightly different. And actually ups the landscaping level just a touch to try to help diminish that impact.
Okay. I'll let Mr. Vance go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Vance.
No questions at this moment.
Okay. Any further presentation here? You're finished, okay?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a developer or others who wish to testify, do you know? Yes, this gentleman here was sworn. If you would, please come to the podium and state your name and address. Please, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
My name is Greg Sandroder. I live at 104 Lake Cliff Court in Cary, a town nearby. And I'm the applicant with Hamilton Merritt. Thank you very much for hearing this tonight. Just like to talk about two things that I think are important with this subdivision. One of them is community outreach. And as mentioned earlier, we've had 2 virtual neighborhood meetings. And in addition, we've done some additional outreach. Mrs. Jones, may I ask you to, you already have that up there, but may I ask you also to use the pointer, please?
Yes.
As we talk, if you would kindly point to the left-hand side of the plan, off our property line, in addition to the virtual meetings, a lady by name of Mrs. Denise Dunn lives right on the property line, right here, and she had some concerns about what types of buildings could go on the property, what our development would be like. We had a separate, I've spoken with her a few times over the phone. I had a separate one-on-one Zoom meeting with her. We worked up a special graphic showing where our buildings could be located. I believe she was satisfied with that information. Number two, we spoke and have had a continuing dialogue with Mr. and Mrs. Zane Lipinski, who own the property directly to the north along the full northern border. In fact, I believe Mrs. Lipinski is here this evening. And we have shown them our plan as well and had an active dialogue with them so they know about our plan. And thirdly, on the right-hand side, is the Hunter's Mark neighborhood. And I've had a conversation with Mrs. Adrian Emerson, who is the president of the HOA. And she asked that I put together an email just describing what our project would be and also enclose some graphics, which I did. And I sent that to her on the 24th of September. And so community outreach is very important to us, so everyone in the neighborhood knows what we're doing. So I just wanted to mention that as background. Number two, about the Wilmington Road realignment. Just as two data points, there have been many conversations and dialogues and information passed between the town and us and NCDOT. But just high level, I might just give you just two meeting data points. We started this process a little over 2 years ago. We had a May 4th, 2018 meeting with NCDOT, Hillwood, the developers of the Amazon building, a representative of the town of Garner, Kimberly Horn, our traffic engineer, and us, to talk about the points of access that Amazon was creating on Jones Sausage Roads, which would then determine our access points to our site. And then we had another meeting on November 6th of 2019, almost a year ago to the day, with NCDOT, representative from Garner, Kimberly Horn, and our civil engineer, Advanced Civil Design, to talk specifically about the technicals related to the realignment of Wilmington into Calabar. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of that background as context. I'd be pleased to answer any more questions that you may have, and thank you again for hearing this tonight.
Okay, if you'll just hold right there in case there are some questions. I'll start over here to my right with Mr. Vance.
Just for a point of clarification, in reference to the realignment of Wilmington Street and with Calabar, that's a part of our long-range transportation plan. So that was going to happen even if this did not happen.
Yes, it would. Theoretically would.
That's my question.
Okay, I'll go back and forth a little bit, start here, and I'll go to Mr. Matthews and then come back over here. You're good? Okay. Mr. Dellinger.
I'll pass. You come
Okay.
back.
I'll go to Mr. Singleton.
It was a question, and I included it here from one of the meetings that specifically asked about the plans for lot number 5, which have more of I think, a direct impact on Hunter's Mark. The lot number 6 is at the corner of Calabar and Jones Sausage Road, but number 5 backs up to some more directly to the neighborhood. All 6 of these lots are coming as individual site plans, correct? Or will they?
Well, lots 1 and 2 have been submitted together for one site plan. I'm not sure how the other ones will develop, but lots 1 and 2 are under one site plan for right now.
Okay. So 1 and 2 are the two that are, or the one that's currently in for review?
Yes, lots 1 and lot 2.
The two different ones? Okay.
It's on the same site plan, though.
Okay. All right, I think one of their concerns was what's going to back up there and with any buffer, but that would be addressed when that lot comes in to be.
It will be.
Specifically when that specific lot, when and if that comes in.
Yes, and also in the presentation, when I said that the 25A type buffer, that would be recorded with Wake County Register of Deeds, that buffer is on lot 5 and lot 4. So that's a guaranteed 25-foot buffer between Hunter's Mark subdivision. It may be an increase in buffer, but I know for sure that buffer will always be there because it's being recorded.
It's recorded, undisturbed 25-foot buffer at a minimum. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Behringer, I believe? Okay, nothing there, okay. All right, are we finished with this witness? And you heard from Mr. Slavinger. Is anybody else planning to present?
I do have a question for Mr. Gregg.
Okay.
I was just letting other folks get a
Sir,
chance.
yeah, sir, if you could come back up, I believe we have some questions for you, sir.
Thank you for being here. You read the overlay with the preservation of trees and canopy and that. in the overlay, and I know there's, you know, a little conflict there. What, can you explain why the goal of there's about 100% tree coverage out there right now, correct? So can you explain why your goal is to remove 90% of those trees?
I appreciate the question, yes. So this property, so from a technical standpoint, I would defer to the planning director, because I want to make any misstatement of fact, and if I can, so I can give you my layman's view, if I will. So this property is zoned I-2, which is heavy industrial, and my interpretation of the current zoning of I-2 is that its intended use is for commerce, and therefore, so it's very similar to, even though we won't have one single large building like Amazon, we will have a series of buildings. And so its purpose is for commerce. And so what we would need to do is to clear the property to do that, not just to provide the building pad and the parking needed for that building, but also the stormwater ponds, et cetera. I would need the planning director to talk about just how the overlay reaches. My guess would be, I don't know that the overlay comes this far off of I-40, but I don't want to make a misstatement of fact, sir. So I would need to have
It
that
does.
confirmed. It does.
Hmm.
And so therefore, I mean, the planning director would have to opine as to whether or not that would impact our ability to clear the property or not. And so, given the fact that Amazon is cleared across the street, I would imagine that we'd have the same sort of standards that would apply to this particular property, but I would have to have that confirmed.
You have no plans to preserve more than just the 10%?
That is correct, yes. We will be clearing the property to develop it, yes, sir.
Could you develop the property and preserve more than 10%?
I appreciate you asking the question. I don't know, for these types of buildings, I don't know that we would really be able to, given the dimensions of the property. I think that, I think we are over the tree save limit, but in fairness, we're just over. I remember from a prior presentation, it was, maybe you said it here and I missed it, but I think
It used 10.68.
that's right, so we're just a hair, so we're essentially on the required amount. And so if we were to do more, what that does, it just impacts our drive aisles and our parking, et cetera. And so our preference would be to clear the amount of land that the ordinance would allow us to clear.
So the minimum. My other question is on outreach. You mentioned the outreach that you've done.
Yes, sir.
And I'd mentioned previously had some concerns in that there was another date given for this hearing at the Planning Commission. It came to my attention that had happened, and so there's been some confusion. With your outreach, how many people from Hunter's Mark did you talk to? There are over 200 homes in there that would all be impacted by this development from a traffic standpoint. How many of those people did you reach out to, and how many of those people did you talk with?
I personally have not spoken to anyone in the Hunter's Mark neighborhood except for the president, who was Adrian Emerson.
Has
Correct.
anyone representing you spoke to the rest of the neighbors in that neighborhood?
I believe that James Whitaker, who is our civil engineer, spoke with an individual. I cannot remember that individual's name. I think I think we had shared it. But they had that individual had participated in one of the virtual neighborhood meetings. The purpose of me speaking with Mrs. Emerson, the president of the HOA, I asked, how can we best communicate this project to everyone within the subdivision? And staff had actually suggested we make sure everyone in the subdivision has visibility on the project. And Mrs. Emerson suggested I put together an email describing the project, and which she could then distribute to everybody in the HOA. So I did that for her along with an attachment of some graphics and sent that to her. The last I reached out to her was this past Friday via email, saying, have you heard any feedback from neighbors, and would they like any additional information, or have a dialogue, an in-person meeting, a special Zoom meeting, which would be a third neighborhood effort, which we'd be pleased to do. And I haven't heard back from her since. And so so the last time I communicated with her was a few days after the first email was sent. So if you give me some latitude, sir, probably the 26th or 27th of September.
A week ago.
Correct.
And you haven't heard from anyone else in the neighborhood?
Correct.
Directly?
Okay.
Do you have I have one more question, and this is directly related to special use permit criteria in our UDO. Do you have any, this is I-2 zoning, which in our UDO is listed as heavy industrial district 2. Heavy industrial district is intended to provide for industrial uses that may be noxious or offensive due to odor, smoke, dust, noise, fumes, or vibration. Operations may be inside or outside of the building. Do you have anyone here to testify on your behalf, again, directly related to special use permit criteria, that there will be no adverse impacts to housing values?
I don't know that, I don't have any expert testimony that I can present that talks about adverse, either adverse effects to neighboring property values or enhancements to value.
That's a requirement for a special use permit, number one. Number two, the proposed use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. You're supposed to be able to testify or bring evidence to that effect, to this hearing. That's part of the permit.
Perhaps it says that, sir. I was never asked to bring any, for example, I was never asked to bring an appraisal or a document by someone who would be considered expert in that field of valuations as part of this process. I have my views on it, but I don't know that my views would satisfy that criteria. So had it been noted that it was important for us to do something like that, we certainly would have included it in the package.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, let me see if other council members have other questions. Mr. Dellinger, so
No
we're
questions.
good? Okay. Okay, this ends here.
Something to note, Mr. Dellinger keeps mentioning the trees. The Hunter Mark subdivision was a heavy wooded lot also, and the trees were cleared. And the Ashland subdivision at the corner of Jones Sausage Road and Garner Road was heavily wooded and trees were cleared. And East Garner Middle School, no, I'm sorry, East Garner Elementary on Jones Sausage Road was also a wooded lot that was cleared.
Okay, Phil?
I have no questions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right, all right. Do we have other persons who are going to testify? What I would ask there while he was there, okay. Okay, yeah, some folks back there. Are we, okay?
Need to get sworn. They'll need to be sworn.
Yeah. All right, thank you, sir, for your time. Were you folks, did you folks get sworn in by the clerk? Yeah, if you don't mind, just go be sworn and then come to the podium, please. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
Either way, you gotta be sworn.
yeah,
Can't speak unless you're sworn.
yeah. Okay, were you sworn earlier? Please see the clerk and be sworn at this time. Ma'am, if you will come on to the podium, I believe I recognize you first. Please state your name and address and give us your statement.
My name is Denise Dunn. I live at 5342 Jones Sausage Road. I live right next door to this proposed plan, so as my brother, Thomas Sewell. And I would like to just say how I feel about this. I hope I am in order. I have had good conversation with Mr. Sandra. We have been living where we are for over 60 years. We have Amazon that have just come right across the street from us. And now we have this property, this project that's gonna be right next to us. And we're not happy about it. And the people, my neighbors on Jones Sausage Road, we feel that we are victims of progress, and no one is hearing us. There's already so much additional traffic. All of us in the surrounding area right next to this property, we have been rear-ended. We can't even turn left or right onto our properties for people blowing the horns. And I understand what laws and buffers of 45 feet, but this is going to be a very huge project, and it's going to be so close to us, and it doesn't make us feel safe. Already we're having problems, and the building, this project has not even been built yet. There's a drive where the first driveway is going to be, I believe it is. There are trucks parked, and the lights are pointing into our home. We did speak with this gentleman, and he has spoken to you guys, and some steps have been taken to rectify this problem. But I just want to say that whenever you're getting ready to approve or disapprove this plan, please take in consideration us as human beings and property owners that have been living in this area for all of our lives. And you're wondering, why am I so emotional? I'm so emotional because when I was a little girl, Jesse Jones Sausage Company supplied jobs and for all of the surrounding areas of our families. And now we have all these people coming here. We don't know. They're from all over everywhere, and they act like we are nobody. And I just thank you for this time, and I just needed to say that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do both of you care to testify? And if you will, try to keep your comments to a reasonable time, 3 to 5 minutes. And if you're representing another group, we usually just have one speaker to represent groups, but I guess, go ahead. Please give us your name and address.
Savannah Lipinski, 4424 Wilmington Road. I own the property to the north of, the entire property to the north of the site plan. I was contacted by Mr. Sandreuter maybe in May. And he has been in constant, almost weekly contact with me since then, since my property is probably the largest property impacted by the project. I have waterway buffers that are going to be impacted by the project, so I have a lot of environmental concerns. And he has listened to my concerns, mine and my husband's, has listened to every concern that I've had. We had concerns about the cul-de-sac that will be in place once Wilmington Road is cut off and Calabar Street creates the cul-de-sac, because we have had in the past a lot of suspicious activity down Wilmington Road, and we had safety concerns regarding what was going to happen once the cul-de-sac was created, and there were back parking and alley type of ways back there. He has listened to all that, and so I would say that if he reached out to Hunter's Mark like he reached out to us, and they have not gotten back to him, it has not been because of a lack of trying on his part. So I knew that development was coming, that I would probably have a development butting up to my property at some point. To have something like this is probably better than a lot of other things that I could have had. And so thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Lipinski. Okay, sir.
How you guys doing? I'm Larry Murphy, and I'm the Vice President of the HOA with Hunter's Mark.
Okay.
So the difference between our community and probably her property is that she's one person. Hunter's Mark, we're well over 200 homes. The information was distributed to Adrian, But in our neighborhood, we have a lot of elderly who are not into the computer world. A lot of them don't follow social media or things that we mobilize communicate on. So it takes a few weeks for information to circulate through our entire community. Right now, when you look at so it's been out for about a week. Right now, we have a Facebook page where everybody talks on, and you're starting to see more chatter about now everybody's more concerned. Everybody's got feelings about where is this going, what's it going to look like. When I came in here today and I'm looking at this, I saw this, but I didn't understand it. And I'm just realizing that we're talking about those two 6 lots. And I'm assuming that there's plans for all 6 of them at some point. So we're talking about commercial literally butting up directly against our community. We were saying we were fixing traffic for our community by putting the light in and doing what we did. But now we're talking about this road going all the way through, and it's currently not cut to be a 2-lane road going in and coming out. It is coming out, but what is traffic going to look like at that point? Because now you're talking about potentially 6 businesses with traffic plus Amazon, and if we're running it through Creech Road, that's going to become a major road going through where people are going to be going into Southeast Raleigh coming out of the Amazon parking lot. We've already experiencing a lot of things happening with traffic coming in and out of our neighborhood. Another thing that I would just like to bring up, when the study that you brought up as far as how it would impact our neighborhood, when Amazon came in, they did a presentation. Amazon said there would be no negative impacts on the neighborhood. I stood up and I said, I'm not sure that's accurate. Now, looking at it, Amazon is almost built, and we are well over, I think we have 54 rental properties in our community now. That was not the case previously. With these rental properties come additional problems. The neighborhood, for some of our long-term residents, feel like the neighborhood is going down. We're fighting hard to keep things going, but there are some major concerns with how this is going to impact us and what it's going to do to our community. So I know you said you reached out and you spoke with Adrian. Adrian did communicate, but in order to get a response from our neighborhood, things need to be sent out prior so we can get it out to everybody. So it needs the time. It's not one of those things where you just send something out and then everybody knows what's going on. So, like I said, my community, I can say I feel like there's a lot of concerns, even from Adrian. I would believe she's got concerns in regards to what's going on. And any other meetings or things that's coming up, how it's advertised. I didn't even know anything about the virtual meetings. I don't know how you guys advertise that or anything. But I would honestly say that I don't believe anybody, how we found out about this entire project is we have a person in our neighborhood who does a lot of construction work in the community, and they have access and they communicate and talk with a lot of people. So he finds out stuff, and then he comes back and tells us, and then it usually winds up happening a month or 2 after he tells us about it. So that's how we find out about these projects. And then from what I'm hearing, we were told that there's also plans for another community to come up back there somewhere, a housing community or something. I don't understand how all this traffic is going to flow and how that little driveway is going to be big enough to carry all of the traffic from these businesses, the traffic in and out from Amazon, housing communities, and everything else. So when we get to a point where we can start talking about the logistics, fixing the logistics part before we get to building all these buildings, I think that would be best. Because how we handle traffic, you got something you can't avoid once you start putting people in these places.
Okay, thank you, sir. I believe we have expended the time. Okay. Anybody else? I didn't see anybody else that expected to testify at this point in time. Okay. So I'm going to close the public hearing. Council, if you care to have comments and brief discussion before a motion. Now is a good time we could do that if you care to, Phil.
I have none this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Singleton.
Yes, Mr. Murphy brings up a good point. I think that maybe a continuance of this hearing might be best, so those folks can, whether it's a virtual meeting or whatever type of meeting that they have, some emphasis be put on that neighborhood. It's very important to point out, though, the land here is zoned I-2, and the lots 5 and 6, which I had inquired about, are zoned service business and have been for decades. So the zoning just didn't pop up, so something was going to go there. Mr. Murphy brings up a good point. That's why I asked Ms. Jones the question about the driveway at Hunter's Mark. If we're going to have warehouses back there, it looks like to me that driveway's got to be expanded quite a bit. I don't quite see how that's going to cut it the way it is. That's just me. I'm not a traffic engineer. That's why we leave to our planners and our engineers. But I know that will come in a later phase. But since Hunter's Mark is just getting up to speed on this, I have no trouble with a delay on this, whether it be for 2 weeks or a month. The first meeting in November might be more appropriate. But anyway, it's also important to note that it's already zoned for this use, so by law and by case law in North Carolina for decades and decades, if it's a applicable use for the current zoning, I mean, you basically have to approve it. So that's just the way the law is. And if you get turned down, you can get sued, and they'll take it to court, and they'll come back and hand you a nice little letter that says you have to approve this, because we've done that a couple times. So anyway, I have no trouble in letting the folks in Hunter's Mark learn more about this project, because if Mr. Murphy, as active as he is, just found out about it, then I think a lot of people just found out about it. So I would just make that suggestion that we delay it, whether it be 2 weeks or a month, to let the folks in Hunter Marks have some interaction with you and learn more about this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singleton. Before calling for a motion, I'll give other council members an opportunity to comment.
I could also support a delay. I have some concerns about, I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't catch your name, about the family that lives to this, I believe, the south of the property. We know that change is going to come. That's just a part of life, but I would like to see maybe some conversation about how they can have some assurances about getting in and out of their own property. And as we all know, when people are driving and in a hurry, they really don't care whether you're in their way or not. So I'd like that to be part of a conversation if we continue this.
Mr. Dellinger, comments?
I would support a month delay on this to give folks to have more impact, and property owners who are nearby. Also, we have a park, Jurgen Park, that's going to be kind of within eyesight or earshot of this, and trying to create some more buffer along that southern side could actually benefit the property owners to the south, and also the park and the amphitheater activity we're going to have out there. Delay would also give the applicant some time to get some more experts to meet all the criteria. If you're not clear on what all the criteria are, I advise you to engage the staff again to get more clarity on all the bullet points you need to put out for us to approve it. That's our criteria. It's not subjective, particularly in the quasi-judicial hearing. You get some experts to testify to these things. That would be helpful to you. Also, engaging the community would be helpful, because you're going to have site plan designs to come through as well. You're going to need the public on your side when you do that too. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Vance.
Based upon the size of the project and what has been heard here from the public, I don't have a problem with the delay for more public involvement on this project. Okay.
Okay, so I think we've heard from all council members, and so I think we're at the point where we could entertain a motion at this point in time, either to move as it relates to the original matter before us, or I'm hearing some sentiment as it relates to a continuation. So what's the pleasure of the council?
Mayor, I move that we continue this, if this is appropriate, Mr. Bagger, we continue this public hearing until the first meeting in November, which I believe will be November 2nd. Is that appropriate?
That's fine.
Okay, so motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Dellinger. Okay, I don't think we actually need any further discussion. So, council, if you're ready to vote, the motion you're voting on is basically a motion to continue. I believe you said, Mr. Single, till the first meeting in November the 2nd.
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody knows what you're voting on. So all those in favor of the motion to continue, please vote aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposition, vote no. And there is none, so I believe, Mr. Baggett, when we come back on the 11th, we just reopen
You reopen the hearing.
the hearing, and will we have to take testimony again, or,
You don't have to,
okay,
but anyone who wants to speak and be sworn is entitled to speak.
right, okay. So, Mr. Senator, you're aware of the action here this evening, and we will take this back up at our meeting on November the 2nd. In the meantime, if you have opportunity to, I guess, follow some of these suggestions, probably be well to try to do that, sir. Thank you. Okay, so that matter is resolved for now. We'll continue till November the 2nd. Thank you. Did you need to go?
Yeah,
Okay,
so-
we have one other, thank you, sir. We have one other item for the council to take up in regular session, and by previous consultation with Mr. Singleton, he had indicated that he is going to need to leave at this time because of some other matters he has to attend to. So with permission of the council, I'm going to recognize him to vacate the meeting at this time. Okay?
Thank you.
We'll still have it. Thank you, sir. We'll see you at our next meeting, I guess. So now we take up item 5, CUP SP 2006 Sam's Express Car Wash. And I will open the public meeting, the public hearing, and recognize Ms. Jones again.
Did y'all get sworn in the first time? Okay, I'm sorry, but
Okay,
they're.
yes, if you will, please go and be sworn in by the clerk if you wish to give testimony in the case. Thanks, sir. Hope things go well. Okay, Ms. Jones, I recognize you.
All right. This project is Sam's Express Car Wash, CUP SP 2006. The applicant is Sam Express Car Wash LLC, Chris Morgan. The owner of the property currently is DHA Garner LLC, Mr. Eli Perry. It is located at 525 US 70 East. The tract size is 1.71 acres. I think just to clarify something in your staff report, it was said 6.3 acres. I put that in incorrectly. That the big lot was 8.9 acres, and minus the 1.7 made it 6.3. So I put the wrong acres in, but this is the correct one. So I just want to clarify that. The Planning Commission held the meeting for this project on September 21st, and it's before you tonight. Oh, I didn't change it right here. The acreage is 1.71 acres. As the car wash is being proposed, it's 4,140 square feet for the car wash building. There's no minimum lot size for the zoning district, but the minimum width for the zoning district is 100 feet. The setbacks are 50 feet for the front. Rear is either 0 or 50. Side is 0 or 25, and corner is 35 feet. And here is a copy of the plan, and just locating some of the features, the vacuum spaces, and the building. And the site plan building will be constructed out of brick ephes and metal panels. There's no open space required for this project, as is a non-residential development. The plan calls for 10% tree coverage, is meeting with 10% tree coverage. The perimeter buffers around the entire project are 15 feet wide. The street buffer along US 70 is 15 foot wide as well. The street trees provided along US 70 are provided approximately every 40 feet. 9 are required and 9 are being provided. Lighting for the site has been shown in conformance with the UDO, as well as meeting staff recommendations for LED fixtures. All fixtures have a zero uplight, low glare, and warm white lighting exhibiting a color temperature no more than 4,000 K. The inspections department, together with the fire department, has a preliminarily, I can't say it right, has approved the plan. Parking is based on 1 per every 3 employees on a maximum shift, plus 3 paid spaces per stall. There are 4 spaces required with 1 accessible. They're proposing 13 with 1 accessible. Environment and floodplain. The site does not contain any FEMA floodplain. Sam's Car Wash is a commercial development that is not located within the watershed protection area. This plan proposes a net decrease in the existing grandfather impervious surface. Therefore, there are no requirements for stormwater for this redevelopment. Connection to City of Raleigh public sanitary and water system will occur through existing infrastructure. Roads and sidewalks. This site is located on the north side of US 70 in front of the existing storage facility west of Morris Drive. Access to the site will be via existing shared drive opposite of Management Way. A dedicated right and left turn lanes onto the drive from US 70 already exists. To accommodate the ultimate 6-lane section of US 70, a lane of pavement will be added in addition to curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Street furnace lighting will also be installed as necessary to meet current standards. The Garner 28 Transportation Forward Plan identifies US 70 as 6-lane divided facility. This plan does not provide additional recommendations for pedestrian, bicycle, or transit improvements. Therefore, with the completion of the half of the ultimate section of US 70, which is a 6-lane divided section with curb, gutter, and sidewalk, these plans may be considered consistent with the recommendation of the Garner 2018 Garner Forward Transportation Plan. A review of the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resource Comprehensive Master Plan revealed no plan recommendations in this project area. Therefore, this project, as proposed, may be considered consistent with the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Comprehensive Master Plan. After sufficient review and plan revision, staff finds that this project, as now proposed, may be considered consistent with the regulations of the UDO, so long as the following project-specific conditions are met. Prior to the issuance of building permit, engineering inspection fees shall be paid to the town of Garner. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, payment of utility fees shall be paid to the city of Raleigh. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, a cross-access agreement must be recorded with the Wake County Register of Deeds. Public road improvements and street light installation must be completed prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Oh, that one's up there twice, I'm sorry. The Planning Commission reviewed this request at their September 20th meeting with a unanimous vote that the Planning Commission confirmed staff's findings in Section 5 that CUP SP 2006 Sam's Express Car Wash is in conformity with adopted town plans and policies.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones, for your presentation. I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Behringer, if you have questions.
I do not, sir.
Okay, I'll go to Mr. Matthews.
None.
None? Okay, Mr. Dellinger.
One quick question. Are there any, and I don't know what the parking requirements are for the storage facility behind it, does this negatively impact their threshold for parking at all?
No, that's my first review, that was the first thing I looked at, was to make sure that because these parking spaces that are right here, well, this whole thing's a parking lot, to tell you the truth, right now.
Yeah.
But especially these up in this area, I was like, I didn't want to make sure that we weren't taking the required from the storage, but I looked at the storage plan and the UDO to make sure that requirements are met and they have enough parking on their site, so they're still
Okay.
in good standing too.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Mr. Vance?
No questions at this moment.
Okay, we've gone all around, so no and others. Ms. Jones, I believe there are some other people who want to testify, so I'll recognize this person who will identify herself and her address.
Good evening. My name is Isabel Maddox. I'm a land use attorney in Raleigh, and happy to be here in Garner tonight where you have actually live meetings. I'm here tonight on behalf of the petitioner, SXCW Properties, Inc., the prospective developer of a Sam's Car Wash to be located at 525 Highway 70 in Garner. Here tonight with me is our development team. First, we have Chris Morgan of Sam's Express Car Wash, the developer, Matt Louder, PE, civil engineer, back here somewhere, Tom Hester, MAI, and licensed real estate broker, and Kevin Dean, traffic engineer, will speak to traffic.
Okay.
This project proposes the development of a Sam's Express Car Wash in the out parcel of what formerly was a site of a Lowe's home improvement store. The main parcel was adaptively reused several years ago as a self-storage. This board recommended approval of a similar conditional use site plan permit back in 2017. And the industrial, I-2 zoning, so the industrial zoning permits a car wash use, but the conditional nature of the zoning requires that each plan that comes in that zoning be approved separately in a quasi-judicial procedure. So we did the quasi-judicial for the self-storage, and now we're here with this quasi-judicial for the car wash. The car wash will be a drive-through setup, standalone vacuums, enclosed structure. No fuel will be sold on site. Operating hours will be 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., and the car wash will be staffed during all operating hours. Our civil engineer, Matt Louder, will tell you more about our site plan in just a minute. Staff report does confirm compliance with the UDO and consistency with the comprehensive plan. Allison did a nice job of going through the staff report. We'll supplement that with our testimony. We'll present evidence on the various criteria. Mr. Dellinger was speaking to that in the prior matter. Just to go briefly through there are actually 10 findings that y'all are required to make in a quasi-judicial approval of a site plan. Just to briefly go through what those are. The proposed use will not endanger public health and safety. That's number one. Number two, proposed use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting properties. 3, proposed use will comply with applicable provisions of the UDO. 4, if completed, the development will comply with all requirements of this section. The proposed, and there's some specific requirements on car washes. Proposed use will be compatible with the proximate area. 6 is proposed use is consistent with the transportation plan, other relevant adopted plans, and the stated purpose and intent of the UDO. Number 7, compatible with adjacent uses in terms of building scale, site design, buffering, screening, operating characteristics. 8, significant impacts will be mitigated or offset. 9, transportation and utility facilities and services will be available to serve the subject property while maintaining sufficient levels for the existing development in the area. And 10, adequate assurances of continued maintenance have been provided. So we do have experts to speak to all of those matters, and I have affidavits signed by each of these gentlemen of our experts I'd like to hand up. This summarizes their testimony, but they will actually speak live and can answer any questions that you might have. And who is the best person to hand the original affidavits to?
Give them to the clerk.
Yeah.
To the clerk or the town manager, or?
Thank you. So first I would like to call Matt Louder to speak about the site plan.
Okay. Mr. Louder.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Matt Louder. I'm with Triangle Site Design. I'm the civil engineer for the project and have been a civil engineer in North Carolina for over 22 years. We did prepare the site plans that have been presented tonight. It is my opinion that the plans were prepared in accordance with the UDO, highlighted by several key factors that have been mentioned, including buffers for adjacent properties, setback requirements, and parking concerns. So I think the plans that we have presented adequately address those issues. In addition to that, there are several standards that are specific to car washes in the UDO that we needed to meet. Specifically, number one is that there be no outdoor storage at the site, none is proposed. Bay doors be oriented away from the public right-of-way unless appropriately screened. And maybe a little hard to tell from this site plan, but the building will parallel US 70, so they won't be facing perpendicular directly at it. So we meet that criteria. Third, all washing operations be conducted within a completely enclosed building, which we do have proposed. That be a car wash with a tunnel, cars will go through. Fourth on the list, the car wash not be located within 500 feet of any residential zoning district. We're completely surrounded by commercial properties and industrial properties, so we meet that criteria. And fifth, that there be no overnight vehicle storage at the facility, and none is proposed. So we do meet those specific car wash criteria with our site plan. In addition to that, sorry, I'm just kind of highlighting that again. So we do meet those criteria. So it's my opinion, based on that, that the site plan does meet the requirements of the UDO. In addition to that, some of the other criteria we're looking at is that the building be in scale with other adjacent developments, and we are very compatible with adjacent retail and industrial type uses. Again, we mentioned buffering. There is a continuous buffer around the property, including and highlighted by a buffer along US 70, part of which got built as part of the storage facility, and it's our intent to preserve what they put in and actually embellish that with additional landscaping. And then also operating characteristics. I know it was mentioned the hours of operation, which are very compatible with the surrounding areas. So based on those criteria, we do meet the site plan and UDO requirements. Finally, one of the criteria is about adverse impacts, and I would like to note that we are doing several things, including there's actually going to be a net decrease in impervious area on the site. It is an existing it's an existing parking lot basically, so we're going to be removing a lot of that pavement and replacing it, the net result being less impervious area. Likewise, being a car wash facility, we will be recycling the vast majority of the water that we use. Forget the exact number, but I know it's well over 90% of the water in the facility will be recycled. They do have tanks that will treat it and reuse it. And so based on those criteria, there will be no adverse impacts based on the site plan. And then finally, there is existing transportation, utilities, and other facilities in the area to support the development, so there'll be no adverse impact. Those facilities are available for us to use. So that concludes my testimony. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I guess we could take questions, or we could hear from others,
If you want to do one at a
depending
time,
on
or-
how Ms. Maddox wants to proceed.
Specific site plan question
Go ahead.
on, what discussion was there with staff around sidewalks and I know 70's weird when it comes to sidewalks, so I'm curious as to what conversations were had with this property and
Yes, sir. So part of this, we are proposing to add an additional travel lane across our frontage. I know if you're coming from Cabela's towards downtown Garner, there's a series of lanes, so we'll basically be continuing that. So it would be an additional travel lane with curb and gutter. And then we have also been asked by town to go ahead and provide a sidewalk along our frontage, which we've agreed to do. So that will be part of our site development, would be to include those improvements on US 70. We're working with the DOT on that, as well as adding potentially another light for the highway. We need to see if we meet their criteria, but we've broached that subject with them and working with them on that. But there will be improvements to Highway 70.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other council member for this gentleman?
Questions?
Okay, we'll hear from your next
Thank you.
witness.
Next, I'd like to call Tom Hester, appraiser.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Tom Hester. I'm a state certified general appraiser, also a designated member of the Appraisal Institute, which is a national professional organization. And I have the MAI designation from the Appraisal Institute, also a North Carolina licensed real estate broker. I've been appraising properties in Wake County for about 35 years. I'm here to address the criteria number 2 and number 5. In your list of criteria, that's the value and the effect on value of adjacent and abutting properties, and also whether the property or the proposed use is compatible with the neighborhood. The existing adjacent properties, or properties that would be adjacent, include the self-storage facility that is adjacent on the north, and this site actually is part of that parcel at this point. There's an auto parts store adjacent on the east that shares the same driveway, AutoZone. There's a hideaway storage, the old sort of mini storage style self-storage that's adjacent on the west. And then to the rear, the property that sort of wraps around AutoZone is currently under development for a new hotel and a dental office. So that's what's existing. I did identify 3 other car wash properties on the Highway 70 corridor in Garner. And the properties that are adjacent to those car wash properties are very similar. The closest one is the Supreme Car Wash, and adjacent properties are a convenience store and then a vacant land, and it appeared to me that the vacant land has been purchased in the last few years by an ownership group that has hotel or motel or lodging in their name. I assume that that is a proposed hotel site. The other 2 car washes that are existing, American Pride, which was a wand wash originally and then has been rebuilt to automatic. That's a little further to the west, and Auto Bill. And then there's the In-Town Suites Motel is between those 2, so motel adjacent to them, and vacant land adjacent to the Auto Bill. Those properties have very similar surroundings. And then if you look, of course, on the Highway 70 corridor in the immediate area, other highway commercial type uses, including more auto parts, auto repair businesses, similar type properties. So really it looks to me like sort of a typical car wash site, and actually a very good car wash location. So based on my analysis of the neighborhood and the properties that surround the proposed development and my observation of the other car wash properties on the corridor, it's my professional opinion that the proposed use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. It's also my professional opinion that the proposed use will be compatible with the area in which it's to be located.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, were you finished?
Pardon me?
I said, were you finished? I didn't mean to.
I'm finished.
Oh, okay,
I'd
that's
be glad
fine.
to answer any questions.
But, yeah, questions, council? Any here? Okay.
No question.
Thank you.
None?
Thank
Okay,
you
you
very
get off light.
And I will note that attached to Mr. Hester's affidavit is a report of his findings.
Okay.
Next, I'd like to call Kevin Dean, professional transportation engineer of Kimley Horn.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Dean, work at Kimley Horn Associates, 421 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I'm a registered professional engineer in North Carolina, and I've been performing traffic analyses for more than 9 years. As Ms. Maddox indicated, I performed the traffic assessment for this site. Now, a couple of the criteria we looked at was consistency with the transportation plans. As has been noted, US 70 is is designated as a 6-lane roadway. As part of this project, we'll be adding an additional travel lane along the project frontage, which will work towards providing the pavement for that ultimate section, so the plan is consistent. In that regard, we also prepared a trip generation assessment, which I believe is also attached to my affidavit. And based on those findings, the site is not anticipated to generate significant volumes of traffic that would negatively impact surrounding uses. Transportation network is expected to be sufficient to accommodate these additional trips. It's worth noting that when you've gone from something like a Lowe's home improvement and that's replaced by a self-storage facility, which is an extremely low traffic generating site. A use like an auto zone is a low generating site, car wash relatively low generating site. So the same access but accommodating significantly fewer driveway volumes is still expected to be appropriate. We've confirmed that with NCDOT and town staff as well. So it's my professional opinion that the plan is consistent with the transportation plans. It's not going to negatively impact adjacent uses, roads, or intersections, and that it will have a minimal impact on the roadway network and will not interfere with public safety and transportation services available to the existing development. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Okay, I'll start down here. Any questions for Mr. Dean, Mr. Vance?
No questions.
Mr. Dellinger, Mr. Behringer, and Mr. Matthews. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And finally, I'll call Chris Morgan of Sam's Express.
Good evening. Chris
Good evening.
Morgan, Development Manager for Sam's Express Car Wash. Been Development Manager now for 3 years and been in the general contract and development business for a little over 20 now. Just wanted to speak a little bit about the safety aspect of our use. Do want to mention that our company values safety. We put a really big emphasis on that with our employees, both new and existing. That shows through our safety training that we have. I think we have yearly safety training with all employees. We also have a safety manual, which I believe was entered into evidence that you could review to see what that entails. As far as the public is concerned, we are a car wash, but the one thing about ours is you drive up to it, you put it out of neutral, you do not drive through the tunnel. The actual car wash equipment does it itself. So there's very low risk to public health going through the tunnel. Really, the only time a customer can really exit the car is whenever they decide to use the vacuums, or if they don't decide, they leave the site. So I'm here to answer any questions about the safety or anything about our wash in particular.
Okay, council, any questions? Any here? Okay.
Are you responsible for assembling the team to come today?
Actually, me and my attorney.
Appreciate your professional presentation. Really do. It's kind of night and day tonight, but I appreciate that. It speaks volumes to your business.
Thank you.
No questions.
Mr. Vance?
No questions.
Okay. All right, I believe that's it for the questions. Yes. Ms. Maddox?
So you've heard from our various experts. You've heard from Mr. Morgan about the safety and the maintenance of the facility. The safety manual is attached to his affidavit as an exhibit. And we believe we have presented substantial material and competent documentary and testimonial evidence which will allow you to make the required 10 findings, and we want to acknowledge and agree that we have to accept the conditions proposed by staff. We'll pay the building permit and utility fees, record the subdivision map, provide cross-access, and provide right-of-way improvements and streetlights. And with that, our whole team is available for questions, and just let me know.
Okay, thank you very much for your able presentation. I'll hear other testimony this time. Witnesses, are there any? Don't believe I saw anybody. Okay, Ms. Jones, nothing else from the town, right? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the council for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council accept the staff statement regarding the plan consistency in section 7 of this report as our own, and find the application meets the 10 permit criteria in section 3.14D, and therefore approve CUP SP 2006 Sam's Express Car Wash with the 3 standard conditions and the 9 site-specific conditions to be listed on the permit that will be prepared by staff.
Okay, motion properly made. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Matthews. Okay, any further discussion, question by council? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
Opposition vote no, and there is none, so the motion carries. Thank you, council, for your work. I will say to Sam's, I think I can say it now, my first exposure to a Sam's Car Wash was in Salisbury, North Carolina, which is the town my wife hails from, and I don't think I'd heard of it till then, but usually when I go to the town up there, I oftentimes get my car washed there, and they always do an outstanding job, so I hope I'm sure your staff will develop the same reputation here in our good town, and we will welcome you to Garner, okay? Thank you all for your time. Okay, council, I believe that concludes our public hearings. Item I, under new and old business, I have nothing listed here. Is there anything, staff or anybody else? Okay, none, all right. We will go to committee reports. I'm not aware of any. Are there any, council members? Committee reports, okay, hearing none. Manager reports, Mr. Dickerson has several items.
Yes, you have Garner info. I think it's only 2 or 3 items on there, so we've been working diligently to get those things completed. And then also you have a capital projects report, and I'll call up Town Engineer Chris Johnson to say anything about that.
Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Yes, we've just a couple highlights of the report. I'm not going to go through every line item, but New Aaron Road is actively under construction. I'm sure you noticed the last few weeks they've been concentrating on water and then sewer main installation between Garner Road and US 70. So that's where the bulk of work has been going, and then once they finish with the water and sewer mains, they'll also be working to tie over all of the sewer and water services from the old main to the new main before they're able to fully abandon the old water main and sewer mains. So going well there. The Vandor Springs Road improvements, I know there was some questions the last couple council meetings. That project has recently started the easement acquisition or right-of-way acquisition process. So initial letters, I believe, are supposed to be going out from the attorney on contract any day now if they haven't already been sent to start those initial discussions. But we're looking forward to getting that ready for advertising sometime in the spring or later next year. Then the Timber Drive Connectors project is wrapping up construction. You've probably noticed that today when I went up by, I saw them doing a lot of smaller tasks such as getting grout lines and things done. So I think most of the sidewalks are already constructed. The ramps are in. I don't know if they got in the new pedestrian signs at down at, I think it's Hearth Drive or somewhere in that area. But if that's not in, that's probably one of the only major work scopes left. But that project's going very well, and we're ready to set up, as soon as they're done with that, a final walkthrough with NCDOT to make sure that there's no other issues outstanding. And then the other 3 pedestrian crossings that we've been talking about more recently, the one on Timber Drive at Buckingham has been, it looked to me when I drove through it today, is pretty much finished unless the new signage has not been made operational. I didn't go out there and touch the buttons myself, but looks like that one's striped. All the reps are in, everything looks good. So that one's moving along, and it's my understanding that both the Aversboro and Buffalo pedestrian crossings should be finished this week. So that should not be a lot of work, much smaller scopes than what they did out on Timber Drive. So hopefully it's mostly just striping and signage. Then the resurfacing contract has been finished. Council had recently approved some additional work on Pool Drive and Whitecap Lane. Both of those have already been completed. So that project is wrapping up, and the only thing outstanding are the 3 pedestrian crossings that we just talked about. And then Jones Sausage Road, I'm not going to go through all the NCDOT projects because I know Joey gave you a very, very in-depth discussion about all the DOT's projects, but I was going to touch on the Jones Sausage Road project. We had a walkthrough with NCDOT today, walked the corridor there and back, took about 3 hours, and looked at Old Garner Road as well. But mostly the only major scope that's left out there is the permanent signage, and the thermoplastic markings, which they have to wait for the asphalt to cure before they come back and do the thermo. So the signage is supposed to be installed later this week, and then that would be the bulk of work that's remaining on the project, other than just routine punch list items. So all the signals have been checked, all of the sidewalks, infrastructure, storm drainage was all looked at really closely today, and we're just waiting on Raleigh Water to do their final inspection on the water and any sewer that they may have had out there along the corridor. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I think that's the bigger items that are on the report.
So on the project you just mentioned, Jones Sausage, so do I understand that, I mean, we're just on the verge of basically signing off with the agreement we had with Hillwood to indicate that the project meets the definition of its
Substantial
basic final completion?
Of substantial completion, yes.
Substantial completion, yes.
Yes, and then, so that once they get the signage in that I was talking about, that would probably be where we issue the substantial completion, and then they have a little bit of time to come back, get the thermoplastic markings, addressed any comments that came out of the DOT walkthrough today, which are mostly smaller things, adding steps to catch basins, fixing bolts and stuff like that were reversed on catch basins, and minor things that they can do.
Yeah, sounds like you did do considerable walking out there today.
Yes.
One mile complaint, there's probably not an easy resolution to it. My old eyes have a difficult time seeing this small print, but I guess to get it in here, there's no way to get that print any bigger, probably
Yeah,
unless you get,
we can print out larger ones if you'd like.
probably a sheet that wouldn't fit in here, but
I get you 24 by 36.
Sorry that didn't get printed larger for
you
you.
could make it just I'm wearing my reading glasses and they help quite a bit, but they're still struggling, so at any rate.
Understood.
Council, any questions for Mr. Johnson? Good report, Mr. Matthews. Okay, here, Mr. Dellinger.
Have we had any kind of update on the roundabout? I know they came and Campo came and we reached out to them about that. Any feedback or
I have
update?
not heard back on the update from them unless you've heard more from Joey since the presentation.
He did email and did confirm that it is still, one of the projects is still on funding hold. I asked him if he had any guesstimate as to when that might be released. He did not have anything specific. This was an email of this morning or late Friday. He did say that he did know that the programming team, I believe it's called at DOT, was working on another round of releases, and he felt like that a lot of projects in that same type of hold would likely get released, but he didn't want to make a promise.
We should send nice emails to him. Would that help? Might.
Okay, Mr. Vance.
No,
Okay,
no
you're good?
questions.
All right, okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
We appreciate your report. Okay. Mr. Manager, I'm back to you.
All right, just a couple of things as a matter of public announcement. Early voting will be at Avery Street Gym. It had been at the annex in the past, but I believe they're going to be actually in the gym this time. That's going to begin Thursday, October 15th, and end on Saturday, October 31st. And of course, we know Election Day is November the 3rd.
Do you just, how many days, will it be 5 days a week or 6 days a week? Do you know? Or is it just Thursday
Yeah, I think it
through
goes from
Saturdays?
that Thursday, I think it's every day. Yeah.
Yep.
Does that
Yeah, I
include
believe it's
Sunday?
every day. And I also believe all the communities in Wake County will, in Wake County will have the same days.
Okay,
but I can check on
those that are having early voting, yeah.
And I'm not sure the times on that, but we can
Okay.
get that information out to you if you want.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. We talked briefly about the town and safety on early voting.
Yeah, we're having discussions about that. So
it's coming up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll fill you in on some of that at another time. Yeah, all right. The other thing is the census deadline has been extended to October 31st, and had a conversation with Mr. Mercer, and it appears that with some of the census takers going out into the public, that the numbers have gotten up into the 90s, so 90%.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I saw something come online today that, and I think it was even a national figure, that these census workers have apparently done a very effective job, and some of the percentages that were quite low, looks like they're, well into the 90s. And
I think just a few weeks ago, we were in the 70s, and now we're like 91% or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. So that's very encouraging news. There was a lot of concern with COVID-19 and other problems, and there was even a suggestion to cut the date back to September, I believe, but then, so, okay, well, that's good news, sure enough. Anything else, Mr. Manager, was that?
That's it for me, with the exception of the closed session that we'll talk about later.
Council have any questions for the town manager?
I would like him to speak to the accreditation that's going on with the police department and the open session the public would have. He knows more about it than I do, so
Okay.
I'll let him speak on that.
Police accreditation, they have to get recertified every year, I believe, and it's 5 year, but then they get recertified yearly. They had a site visit, and that went well, from what I understand. I think the mayor and I will be getting interviewed in the coming week or so.
That's right.
By one of the assessors, and it's a very important process for us. I can't remember when we started getting accredited, but it was before I got here, so it's been probably at least over 20 years. And a number of those years, we've been designated as a flagship agency, which pretty much sets the example for other police departments. We feel like accreditation, and the police department feels like accreditation is very important, because it shows that we are implementing standards to be a quality police department as far as our policies, is written and in practice, and how we follow through on some of the things that are happening in our community, how we engage the community, and just having having good standards that allow us to be a safe community and be respectful also to the community that we serve. So.
Okay, thanks, sir. You good? Okay. So, you're finished there,
Yes,
Mr.
and I can have
Attorney?
the police talk more specifics once the process is over, and we get a report back from the assessment team.
There's a public comment period coming up, like the 12th to the 14th,
Yes.
I believe. So.
Yes.
Yeah, any member of the public can contact and offer their comments, right? Yeah,
That's correct.
okay. Mr. Attorney, do you have any report for us?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Council reports, I'll start with Mr. Matthews.
Well, it's more of the meeting side I showed a little bit earlier, but Mr. Vance and I had our meeting today as we were working with the fire department and our staff here as we're looking at the future merger down the road. We had a great meeting today. I thought it was very informative, and we're now putting some plans together to bring back to the board a list of priorities. So we will have a game. We're not going to sit idly by. We're going to start moving forward with it to go in conjunction with the fire department certification, not to be in their way, but keep both projects moving, but not stepping on their toes in that process. And I guess but it was a very good meeting, and we'll hope to bring you folks some further details a little bit later.
And I believe the mayor is still on that committee, right?
No, we fired you today.
Oh, okay. What you get for not knowing when to
Thought
meet.
you'd appreciate that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, good. We're glad to have the new members, and, yeah, okay. Anything else?
Yep.
Ms. Behringer? Okay, Mr. Dellinger?
Just to piggyback on the town manager's comments about the certification, we saw the PAL presentation tonight. The certification and all this stuff we do helps make us have one of the best police departments in the state, if not the country. And so if you want to be involved and submit comments, please do. It's your opportunity to, one of many to contribute. The other is early voting is coming up soon, and everybody should vote. Everybody should vote.
Mr. Vance?
Nothing at this moment.
Well, the mayor has just one thing, couple of things, I guess. Actually, I think I reminded all of the council members last time of the ribbon cutting to take place on the 9th of October. This is out at Greenfield. I don't have the Korean company that we're excited to have come to town, and there'll be Ms. Behringer will stand in for me out there, and any council member who can attend, I would encourage you to go and help welcome this newest company to our town. We're always excited to have folks like that come in. And also, we've already mentioned the census. I want to commend any and everybody who was involved in promoting that and encouraging that. At one time, our figures did look rather dismal, and so we all heard all the bad things that occur when you don't get everybody counted. And so thanks to all of you who made the efforts, and to the field workers and everybody. We're in much better shape than we were just a month ago. I commend you all. Let's see, Mr. Manager, is the town attorney going to participate with us in the closed session? And that's fine if he is. I just wanted to do a thing or two with him before he gets away.
Before we go into closed session, there is one thing, I apologize. One thing, on this coming Saturday, there will be a police and community engagement event happening at Avisboro Church, beginning at 9 a.m. in the morning, and going until 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Police community engagement, a number of churches are getting together to just engage with our police.
Yeah. And, well, it's not strictly a follow-up on the LOVE that the first one we had. There's some connection, is that right?
Some connection.
Okay, that's what I was
Yes.
thinking. And I regret I won't be there since I'll be out of town, but if otherwise I would be, and I would encourage everybody to attend that. Just before we go into closed session, I think I'll do this now. Mr. Baggett thought he was getting away from us at our last meeting, but we tricked him into coming back one more time. We call it his encore. I told him he's going to have to sing his best song tonight for an encore, but he said he wouldn't sing tonight. But, you know, the town over time has some little town-related items, Mr. Baggett, that we give out to folks that we're fond of. So they put yours actually in a big bag. I've seen them give them out just one or two at a time, but you have several items, including an umbrella, which you hopefully won't need tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We will excuse you from future meetings. How's that? Yeah. Okay, we do need to go into closed session. I have some sites here, or do you have those for, let's see, one was for personnel, is that right?
Personnel and then property acquisition.
Okay. I need to give those personnel is NC General Statutes 143.318.11A6. That's personnel, and the other one was what?
143-318.11A5.
Thank you, Mr. Baggett. So somebody make a motion that we go into closed session based, okay, properly seconded, okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and before we actually go into closed session, we'll take about a 5 to 7 minute recess, and then we'll come into closed session, declare. Here we go. All right, I declare us back into regular session. The council went into closed session to, one, discuss a possible real estate information. Council took no specific action, but gave some direction to the town manager. We also were in closed session to discuss a personnel matter, to receive a report from the town manager, and took no specific action this evening. And does that cover it all?
Yes.
Okay, so council, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn this regular session.
So moved.
Second, I believe a motion is second made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.